Hey, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, Infinite Crypto Cruisers. Hey there, folks. My name is Brad Varnell, and this is the Infinite Crypto YouTube channel. And today I am so excited. I have a special guest that's coming onto the show to share his heart and share some experience with you, and a guy that really wants to help make a difference in this world. This gentleman is a serial entrepreneur. He's known as the hardcore closer. He's got multi-million dollar businesses all over the places. He's highly renowned. He's a best-selling author. He's a speaker. He's a coach. But I tell you what, folks, the reason that I'm so excited to have him here on this show is because of this beautiful family. This guy has an incredible wife, a marriage that we all are striving to achieve. He's got incredible kids, 4 incredible kids that he's raising. He's a godly man, and I'm just so honored that he has taken a few minutes of his time to share and impact our lives today. So without any further ado, let's get Ryan Stewman here on the show, man. Welcome, my friend. Good to have you.
Man, glad to be here. I don't know a whole hell of a lot about crypto, but I know a whole hell of a lot about life. So here we are.
Amen to that. And I think you're probably being a little humble. I know that you got involved with Bored Apes Yacht Club back during the last bull run and did very well with that NFT and the ape coin airdrop. And, from what we were talking a little bit off camera, you own some crypto. And if part of the reason that I invited you onto the channel was for all of the other things that you're going to talk about. But I also know that you understand the power of blockchain technology and where crypto is going over the next 5, 10, 15, 25 years.
Yeah, I think it'll be sooner than that. Honestly, more 5 than 10 or 15. But I honestly got into crypto back in to be honest with you, I bought a bunch of LSD back in like 2013 with Bitcoin, and I think I spent like $50 in Bitcoin, so I probably blew about $50,000 in on LSD in today's terms at one point on the dark web. But that's not the life I live anymore, but that was the life I was living back in the day. But I honestly got into learning how crypto and stuff works because I think everything's going to be on the blockchain. I think you're going to go and scan a barcode and buy a car, and your title's going to be on your phone with the lien against it, kind of like OpenSea does for NFTs. And I think it's going to work that way for your house, your phone, anything that you own. You're just going to have right there on your mobile device at some point in the future. And that was the reason I really started learning how all this stuff works, because I don't want to be the old man that's like asking my kids how to program the remote control on the TV when it comes to blockchain in the future,
Yeah, absolutely, man. So, speaking of, being an OG and having a little bit of life experience, let's run back as we were talking about before we hopped on the show. There's a lot of people out there that are kind of hurting right now. The inflation and the high interest rates are wiping a lot of folks out. And there's just a lot of people that are looking for an answer. And there's a lot of people out there that are discounting their ability to go create a future for themselves because of their past and some of the things that have happened to them. So I would love, if you don't mind, going back to, maybe about 2008 and just kind of telling us a little bit about your story and how you went from, pretty much rock bottom to, the top of the mountain.
Well, people are hurting because we did it, Joe, right? And that what that bitch is saying right now. So, I don't know. I'm not trying to get political, but, it just, we can go back to 2008. But if we're just talking about 2020 to 2022, you're making money on, you buy a Lamborghini, you sell it the next day for more money. You buy a Rolex, you sell it the next day for more money. You buy an NFT, you sell it the next day for more money. You buy Ethereum, Bitcoin, same process. And then somewhere in like January through March of 2023, like the economy just went, you can no longer make money. ERTC's gone, PPP's gone, EIDL's gone, crypto's gone, stock market's gone, real estate's gone. Like, your bull run is over, America. And for a lot of people, here's what happens in my experience. And I've dealt with, literally, I've had 83,000 clients in the last 14 years. So I've dealt with a lot of people, speaking on stages in front of millions of people, coaching, not millions of people, thousands of people, coaching thousands, tens of thousands of people in 14 years. And what happens is the average person, when times are good, and I was telling people from 2016 to 2020, despite what president was in the office, I was like, hey, if you're not making money during this time period and being smart with it, you're this is the luckiest time to be alive. And if you're not making money during that time period, then you have to be a loser. And I don't mean to insult people, but during that time period, a 5-year-old could make money. I met 13-year-old kids that lived in South Africa that were making a shitload of money selling NFTs and flipping NFTs and stuff. So like anybody could make money. So the people that missed out on that were they just didn't want it, right? But what happens is the people who got it and they got lucky, because we were all lucky back then. Like, there's no way that any other time that you should be able to just buy a car and sell it for more money. You should be a car salesman selling an average Honda Accord for $5,000 over sticker, be able to flip NFTs, be able to basically buy anything and sell it for more money. People start thinking, yeah, I'm the man, this isn't a lucky streak. I've got talent and skills. And then when reality settles back in and the bull runs over, people are just like, well, I lost it all, and they admit defeat. And the reason why I say that is because, and you mentioned 2008, and really I can take it back to 1999. I was in my first entrepreneurial venture. I was selling cocaine, and I wasn't like moving keys and shipping to Colombia and stuff, but I was paying my rent, and didn't have a car, but I was paying my rent, my cell phone bill, and working 3 jobs. I worked a job from 6:30 in the morning to 4:30 in the afternoon as a electrician's helper. In Texas in the summer, that's about the worst job that you can take, because you're crawling in attics all day. And right now here in Dallas, Texas, it's 106 degrees outside. So, and it's not any hotter now than it was back then, despite all the climate change shit we hear about. It's always fucking hot here. And so, and then at 6 o'clock, I get off work. Then at 6 o'clock, I was a host at a Mexican restaurant. So I was the guy that sat you down at the table and brought chips and salsa to you and went and made sure that everything was good at the end of your visit. And then from about 10 o'clock to midnight, I sold drugs. So, I was hustling 3 jobs. And one night, my friend orders a couple of girls over to the house, and one of them talked me into doing coke. And I wasn't the person that did it. I smoked weed, but I wasn't a person that did coke. And I did 1 line of coke and my heart exploded. Now, I don't know if I'm allergic to it. I haven't tried this theory again since 1999. So I don't know if I was allergic to it, or if I just had good shit, or did too much, or, I did the same amount I'd seen other people do. And the girl runs to the phone. That was back when we had landlines, and calls 911. Literally the fire department where the ambulance is like maybe 100 yards from my apartment. And they come into the apartment, they pulled me back together with the defibrillators, took me to the hospital. At this point, I'm unconscious. I don't know what's going on. It's like a Pulp Fiction movie moment, and I wake up the next morning and I'm handcuffed to the bed. The cop hears the handcuffs rattle, and he comes in there and he says, you have the right to remain silent, blah, blah, blah. I go to county jail and I have a $25,000 bond, and I'd never seen $25,000 in my life at this time, right? So, nowadays they just slap you. Nowadays they probably don't even arrest you, but back then drugs were a big deal in the 90s. In November of 2000, I was sentenced to November of 2000, I was sentenced to 2 years in prison. They offered me 10 years probation, 20 years deferred adjudication probation for felony 1. I had less than 7 grams of coke, which for me was about $300. And they offered me 20 years probation or 2 years in prison. I knew I couldn't keep my nose clean for 20 years. So I took 2 years in prison. My lawyer said, you'll do 4 or 5 months. You'll make first parole, first timer, and you'll go home. I ended up doing the whole fucking 2 years because I'm not a badass. I'm not a tough guy. I was a 130-pound white guy in the Texas prison system, and I got picked on. And because of that, I had to defend myself, and probably lost more than I won. I'm not sitting here trying to pretend like I was some badass. Like I said, I weighed 130 pounds in a prison. I got sent to about 8 different prisons during that time, traveling around over the course of about 19 months of the 24-month period. And you know, you see in a movie, a guy's walking down the prison run and they're like, you know, hey, you're my bitch and all this. I had to do that shit like 8 fucking times, man. It was absolute misery. So when right after 9/11 happened, they let me out about 2 weeks later. And I remember coming in from working in the kitchen and looking up at the day room TVs and seeing the planes fly through the building. And I was like, holy fuck. You know what I mean? Like, holy shit, this is absolutely crazy. And so, I'm sorry, I went in November of 99, got out in November of 9/11 happened in 01, whatever the hell. Anyway, did 2 years. I'm a little old now, and that was a long time ago. But regardless, 9/11 happens, and they're telling us in the prison that the first thing that happens when America goes to war is they kill the prisoner. So I'm like, shit, they might kill us. All I have was some cocaine. Give me a break, you know? And turns out a couple weeks later, they let me out on parole. I had like a month of parole or something like that. And I get out. And I make a promise to myself. I'm going to live my life as if I'm on camera all the time. I'm not going to do anything behind closed doors that I wouldn't do in front of the world. And, you know, I went to work for a car wash and worked my way up from a vacuumer all the way up to managing multiple locations. And one day, a customer that was a regular in the car wash business, the customer, we got these, I'm just be real with y'all on the podcast. We having these damn rolling blackouts right now in Texas, and the lights keep going on and off, and it's crazy, but I've got us hardwired in, so we should be good. But a lady comes in the car wash on a regular basis, and one day she says, man, you got to be the hardest worker here. You're a hell of a salesman. You're doing this, that, and the other. I'd like to offer you a job. And I said, okay, well, I got a job, you know? And she goes, no, I'd like to offer you a job making real money. You could be a millionaire if you work this hard and you come work for me. And I said, well, what do you do? And she goes, well, I do mortgages. I said, well, what the hell is that? I never even heard that word in my life. You know what I mean? I didn't grow up in a mortgage type of family. And she said, you know, we finance homes for people. And I said, I don't know anything about that. I got a truck that I paid cash for. I've got an apartment that I pay in money orders. And she goes, well, I'll teach you. You need to come work for me. So, man, I took a big risk, second entrepreneurial risk in my life besides selling drugs, which obviously didn't work out well. And Monday I showed up and I thought, Brad, that I'm dressed to the nines for me, you know, and I'm wearing like work boots and starch jeans. And dude, I show up in this office and everybody's in Armani and Versace and they're all bankers and all this shit. And I was like, oh man, I was like a fish out of water. But I went in and she gave me a book on how to do stuff. And I had a dictionary on how to learn the words that were in that book. And man, I just worked 12 hours a day like I did at the car wash 7 days a week. And the crazy story is within about 45 days, I'd made $30,000, which was more than I was making in 3/4 of a year working 70 hours a week for the car wash. And dude, I was addicted. Then one day, you know, I'd kind of run through my warm market and didn't know how to market. I knew how to sell and I knew how to do, I kind of was getting the hang of doing mortgages. I'd done 3 at this point during the subprime boom. And one day I'm at home and I'm like, fuck, I need some business, man. You know, my rent's going to be due soon. And, you know, I'm trying to save up my money in my nest egg back here and I don't want to blow through it. And there's a TV ad that comes on and it says, Rich Dad, Poor Dad seminar. And learn how to get zero down real estate. Come to the Hilton or the Radisson or whatever the hell it was. And I was like, dude, there's going to be a bunch of people that need mortgages at this event. And so I drove down there and went to this event. And I watched these people spend like $2,500, $5,000 on a digital program. It was DVDs at the time. You bought these DVDs, you watched them at home, you went and did what they said. There was PDFs you slide into your computer that you could print out. And I didn't spend the $2,500 because I'd never invested in myself in anything like that. And I was running out of money. You know, by the time I ran out of my warm market, I'm 6 or 8 months into this and I hadn't closed a loan in a few months. So I'm like kind of running low on money and shit, you know, and I'm sitting and I'm like, these people that are buying these bags full of DVDs, they clearly got money and they're going to go buy real estate. I'm going to give them my business card and be like, hey, yo, you know, I can get you a loan and loan you the money for this zero down real estate deal that you just learned. I'm your money guy. Hit me up. And, you know, I'm 24 years old, maybe 25 years old at this point, and I'm 45 now, and I feel 100. But, you know, I don't look old, you know, for the most part. I got a few wrinkles now that I'm in my 40s, but when I was 25, I looked 14. And so you know, they take my card, and a couple of them called me, and I did a few deals for them. But then one day this guy calls me, and I refinanced 54 different properties for him. And this guy kind of took me under his wing and taught me a bunch of stuff about real estate. And I'm going to all these seminars at this point. I'm showing up. I've got a system. I'm giving my business cards to people. I'm getting their business cards. I'm calling them, networking. And in 2005, I left in September, I think, of 2004 to go be a loan officer. From July to December of 2005, I made $770,000.
Nice.
And fucking, oh shit, this lady was telling the truth, man. Like, I made $1 million in a year's time, and holy shit, like, this is a real thing. And so I go buy a, you know, $500,000 house, and I go buy a couple of cars, and I'm doing well and killing it in the mortgage game. And I learned how to hack into the company's server from my house, and so I could log in and do loans from my house. I'm the OG at working from home, you know. And they had a remote server. I just typed in the URL, and I would load applications. I own about probably 15 to 30 houses at this time, and not fancy houses, just rent houses, 50,000, 40,000. You know, back then that was a good price for a rent home in Dallas. And I got it the first of the month. Realtors coming in, Mercedes dropping off contracts, renters coming in, beat up Crown Victorias, dropping off rent checks to me. Loan officers coming over, picking up paperwork, my assistant coming over, picking up paperwork, friends coming over and hanging out. And the neighbors called the police on me and said I was selling drugs, I guess. And the cops started watching me, saw a shitload of traffic to my house, knew my past history, kicked in my door one day, and I didn't even have a sandwich bag. You know, I didn't do drugs. I didn't have drugs. I didn't even have a fucking baggie to put drugs in or a scale to weigh them on. But in Texas, 5 years, Texas, I got a piece of paper back that says I got the right to vote and the right to bear arms in my primary residence. When they raided my house, they found a gun. And I went to the court and beat the case because I had the right to bear arms in my house again. And the state of Texas turned me over to the ATF. The ATF, and I didn't know this, but the ATF does not recognize the right to bear arms for a felon in the state of Texas because it's federal law. So they double jeopardied my ass and charged me with federal felon in possession of a firearm and sentenced me to 15 more months in federal prison. So I walk in federal prison, a married man with millions of dollars, not millions, but $1 million, and, you know, a nice house and all this shit. And I had 60 days to get my affair in order. I had to dude, it was a fucking nightmare. And because I thought I was going to get probation at least, you know, but the judge ended up giving me 15 months due to my prior record. And, you know, no matter what story I told, it was a whole bunch of bullshit. They tried to give me 20 years, but I helped my lawyer get elected as district attorney in Dallas County. And so he made a plea deal for me and helped me get that shit down. Crazy story, right? And so I go do 15 months, six months into federal prison. Wife leaves me for the landscaper, takes all my money, sends me divorce papers. Just a fucking sad story, you know? And I get out and I know two things, like, hey, I'm free. So I have opportunity before, and I've pulled this off before. So I start doing loans again. And you know, it's hard to get a job as a two-time felon when you're trying to do mortgages, but I finally closed the company on giving me a deal, worked my way up, became top producer. And during that time, you know, my sister introduced me to Facebook, and she was like, you know, Facebook's where everybody is at. You can meet your friends on here. So I start posting my top producer plaques at this company I'm working for on Facebook. And people started going, hey, can you do my mortgage? Hey, can you do my mortgage? Hey, I'd love for you to do my loan. I want to buy a house. And I'm like, shit, you can get leads from Facebook. This is 2008. And so I was on to something early. 2010 rolls around. Dodd-Frank happens in the government. Once again, complete fuckery of my life. Comes in and says, we're moving licenses from state to federal. And if you're a felon, you can't get a federal license. So I'm like out of a job. So I didn't know what to do. And I had this idea, though. I was like, I'm going to teach loan officers how to get leads from Facebook. And that sounds like common knowledge now. But in 2010, people are like, what's Facebook? And my bank won't let me on it, or whatever the case. Right. And So it was very difficult. But, I started off teaching loan officers, something that I had done. Then we started teaching realtors a couple years later, then insurance guys a couple years later. And now I look up 14 years later and I can teach anybody how to run a business, because the byproduct of that was me learning to build a business. And the byproduct of that was me mastering sales and marketing, hiring, training, leadership, brand building, culture, all of these things. And now I run a group called Apex, which is a business association, which is, we have things like skill acquisition where you can learn things like sales, marketing, hiring and training, things like that. We offer membership benefits, which is discount services on things that business owners already use. And I built a pretty substantial business association with, thousands of active members. And I've ended up selling products to over 83,000 people as of the time of this recording, and built multiple businesses in software, real estate, consulting, seminar business, live event business, bunches of other industries that we've been in. I got a little piece of several companies that I have equity in and stuff like that. And it's crazy to see all these twists and turns that have happened in my life. And I call that the force of average. It seemed like every time I'm chasing greatness, something like humbled me and sent me back and taught me a lesson and took me back to average or below average. Making $1 million, going to prison, getting out, making another $1 million, and then losing your job, then building something up and having to pivot and learn. And dude, it was just like one thing after the other. But here I am all these years later. I'm happily married for 10 years with 4 kids and living my dream life, honestly. For the most part, life can be stressful. I'm really, at this point in my life, I'm focused on what is my dream life and how can what is the income goal I need to hit. And it's not as much as most people think, but the income that I need to fuel my dream life and really remove myself from actually working every single day and truly enjoy the fruits of my labor later on in this life. So kind of a long story, obviously, but I think it'll resonate with a lot of people. There isn't too much I didn't touch there. Divorce, drug addiction, prison. There isn't too many other tragedies that can happen, job loss in a human being's life, and that I haven't gone through outside of I was never raped in prison. Outside of that, I've pretty much fucking failed across the board and still been able. But I have this belief. I have this belief, Brad, that no matter what happens, you only lose if you quit. I could have quit when I got out of prison. I could have quit when they put me in prison and I got divorced. I could have quit when I lost my license. But it's like, man, we live in the land of opportunity, and there's opportunity in front of us. And if I don't take the opportunity to know that everything I want's on the other side of hard work. So if I'll just work hard, if I'll just master the skills that I need, if I'll just really practice off hours and execute on the clock, then I'm going to win no matter what. I may not win quickly and may not win big in the beginning, but if I just hammer down and refuse to fucking roll over and quit, then the force of average isn't going to beat me. I'm going to win every single time. And it may not be an instant win, but it's something that I'm going to keep working towards that win. And I believe that I have the ability to win. So I'm just going to hammer down and stick with it no matter what. And that's the product. So many people, they're like, oh, I lost my job. And I remember when I was training loan officers, Brad, in 2011, 2012, and I'd get on the phone and I'd be like, doing a strategy session with them. Hey, what made you decide to reach out all this? And they go, well, my life ain't been the same since 2008. I'm like, bitch, I done been to prison and back, lost a job and back, and built a whole fucking company in 4 years. And you're over here with no felony record, money in the bank, a fucking wife and kids, still bitching about something that happened 4 years. What the fuck is wrong with you, man? But that's how most people live their life. This one thing happens and it's tragic to them, and they're like, oh, I'm just gonna give up and complain and be a victim of this tragedy my whole life. Whereas I was like, man, fuck it. The more times that I go to prison and get out, go get divorced and get out, lose a job, and the more times I win over shit that should have set me back for life, the badder motherfucker I'm gonna be. The stronger, the more resilient, the better my story is going to be, the more people I'm going to be able to inspire, the more people I'm going to be able to connect with. If I just never play victim and take responsibility, because all that shit is my fault. It's my fault in one way or another. And if I'll take responsibility for it, own it, and keep fighting to win, then fuck, they're never going to be able to take it away from me.
Amen. One of the things that you've been talking about and that I would like you to touch on a little bit is, success leaves clues. And one of the things that I know about you is how hard you worked on yourself. And, one of the things, being an influencer, having a community, one of the things I don't know if the word frustration is the right word, but man, when you look somebody in the eyes and you're really just trying to tell them, hey, you got to start working harder on yourself than you are on your business or your job or whatever. You got to start, reading the right books and listening to the right things. And it seems like there's a huge percentage of the population that is just so resistant to going and reading Think and Grow Rich or How to Win Friends and Influence People and those types of things. And so how do you, what would you say to somebody that's sitting there that wants to change their life, that's not familiar with personal development, that thinks it costs too much, that just thinks it takes up too much of their time? How would you maybe, try to flip that switch in them and get them working on themselves?
Well, I would ask, how's that working for you, not doing it? But here's what most people do. They're like, if I read this book, then I don't have an excuse for failure. If I read this book, then I got knowledge. And then if I don't apply this knowledge, then I have an excuse for, if I don't read the book and don't get the knowledge and don't apply it, I have an excuse for failure. If I read the book and don't apply the knowledge, then I have to admit to myself that I'm just fucking lazy. And so many people, they don't want to admit to themselves they're lazy. So they just use that as an excuse. Well, I didn't know. When I was in federal prison for 15 months, I read a book a day. Right? Book takes about 4 or 5 hours to read. One thing I learned from prison was how to do time. I know that if I do certain things every single day, then they're moving the needle in my life. If I eat healthy, if I work out, if exercise, if I read, if I go to work, if I hammer the phones, if I do podcasts, I know these things move the needle in my life and my business. And so I learned to do time. There's a lot of guys that did 20 years and never read a single book in there. I read, 300 books in the 15 months that I was in there. And, I remember guys making fun of me. One day I'm reading a book by Harvey McKay called Never Trust a Naked Man Who Gives You His Shirt. And people are like, what kind of gay shit are you reading in here? Because, it's prison. That's how it is in there. And I'm like, dude, this guy made $1 billion selling fucking envelopes. What do you like? You guys are over here like complaining about your life and talking about the good old days of trapping and selling dope and shit like that. I'm going to get out of here with 300 books of knowledge, a motherfucking PhD in business and life. And you guys are going to get out and go move into a halfway house and wonder and use it as an excuse the rest of your life. We ain't the fucking same. We ain't the same. Right? But most people won't work on themselves. Most people go do time and be depressed and everything else. And I'm like, look, I'm here and I've been to some seminars and I've seen people win at seminars. There's books everywhere. I can have my people send me books. I can borrow books from other people here. I'm just going to learn everything that I can. I'm going to learn everything that I can and make the most of my time. Then when I got out here in the outside world, I'm like, dude, I'm just going to keep doing that. I'm going to make the most of my time. People say, oh, I don't have time or there's not enough time. We don't have, and there isn't enough. You know what? We fucking make time. We make time work for us. It's what we do with time that matters, not the amount of time we're given. We're all given a finite amount of time. It's what we do with that finite amount of time that allows us to go through the levels in life.
Yeah, man. Amen. So I appreciate you just going through all of that. Now let's pivot a little bit. We were kind of joking around about it off camera and saying, that the title of this video ought to be, 2 million gone in 30 seconds. So let's kind of go over and talk a little bit about your crypto journey. I think it was a gentleman named Justin Brown that got in touch with you and kind of started introducing you to the world of NFTs. And that's, I think that's how you started off with, getting the Bored Apes, and just, give us a little bit of your background in crypto and talk about how you lost $2 million in 30 seconds.
Yeah. So, in 2017, I started paying attention to Bitcoin and I bought a little bit and it went up and I sold it. And I was like, I made maybe $1,000 or something like that from it. But somewhere around 2019 or 2020, that shit started really climbing and NFTs were introduced to the world. And I thought of NFTs not as pictures of monkeys and shit like that, but like I was saying in the beginning of this podcast, I thought, this is probably going to be the future. These pictures of monkeys are going to morph into titles of property, and they're going to morph into titles for cars and bills, and we're all going to be on this digital currency. And it was and I still believe that's what's going to happen. And so I thought, man, I need to educate myself on this stuff. I need to learn how all this works. I need to learn how to actually get in the blockchain, start a wallet, buy stuff. And I had bought a mutant ape and turned around and sold it and made like $5,000 off of it. And I thought, well, that's pretty cool. And then I had bought a bunch of different NFTs and sold them that were really popular and made a few bucks off of each one of them. And one day a guy slides in my DMs and he's like, listen, man, you've got a little extra crypto laying around. You need to convert it to Terra and then open up a station wallet and convert it to Terra. And then you can stake this and you can make 10% compound interest per day off of it, right? And so I go and I put $10,000 in Terra in this wallet. And within about a month, it's like, $12,000, $13,000 because it compounds daily. Most interest compounds annually. This is compounding daily. And so if it's like 1% a day, you look up and you got a 30% return on investment in 30 days, 60% return on investment, so on and so forth, right? And I'm like, oh shit, okay. So I moved about $800,000 worth of money over into Terra. And it goes up to 1.5, 1.4, 1.6. And I'm like, shit. So I start taking some of my profits out and buying different. I bought a Bored Ape and then I start buying other different stuff. But one day that same dude, his name is Joel, he hit, I'm like literally about to get on a jet. And Joel sends me a message. He goes, you still have money in Terra? And I was like, yeah. And he goes, get it the fuck out right now. That shit's about to crash. And I went, oh, okay, shit. So I didn't wait. I stopped what I was doing, sold all of it. And I had like 1.6 in there. By the time I sold all of it, it was like $800,000. So within like literally a minute, it had dropped by half of what it was, which was still more than my original investment. And I made a little money from it. But dude, within about 5 minutes, that shit went to zero. And it was like, dude, I was like 1 minute I'm $1.6 million rich, probably $2 million altogether. And the next I'm barely dragging the original investment out. And if that guy wouldn't have called me and I wouldn't have been a prolific action taker, I would have lost all that money immediately, and it's funny. Like I had some stuff in Voyager too, because I had some of these NFTs, they paid you for staking like metaverse land and stuff like that. And I would take the money and put it in Voyager. And I had about $300,000 in Voyager, and then they froze Voyager one day, and they were just like, "Fuck your money, it's over with." I just got a check last week for $6,500 from them. So $200-300 grand, whatever I had. You can't even access the wallets now, but $200-300 grand, whatever I had in Voyager, ended up being $6,500 about a week ago for me. And so, for most people, they would be like, oh, I'm never doing this again, blah, blah, blah. But I look at it as, I learned some lessons. I made some money. I didn't really lose money. I didn't make the whole profit that I was going to, but I didn't really lose money. I never launched NFTs or a crypto coin myself because I didn't want to be responsible in case a rug pull happened or an inflated thing or a whale came in and bought it and, then pulled the rug on us or whatever. So I never really did any of that. I told some of my people to buy things over the years that did and didn't work out. Some of it did, some of it didn't. But, I just knew that I needed to learn this stuff because I truly still believe it's the future. And what's funny is now we got politicians like Donald Trump and stuff saying, hey, we're probably going to move to digital currency. The Fed's trying to get us on digital currency. And they call it digital currency, but the bottom line is it's crypto. You know what I mean? Like it's all the same. And really, we've been on digital currency for a long time. When you log into your bank account, you just see numbers on a board and numbers on a card. That's no different than a wallet in crypto. It's just that stuff's not tracked all the way through. It's only tracked when it came in and left your bank account versus crypto can be tracked from the origin of that coin. Imagine if you got a coin in your hand, a penny in your hand, and you could tell everybody that had ever touched that penny ever, and you found out it was owned by famous people, and you found out that a president once spent it at a store in Washington and it made its way to Dallas, Texas. That's basically what crypto is, to me anyway.
Awesome. So it sounds like you spend most of your time building your businesses and building your machine, as you call it, build your machine. And that's one of the things that you've been huge for teaching people. Do you have, like a a percentage of your disposable income that you're investing into any crypto currently, or is it just kind of by whim?
Well, I have a shitload of NFTs that me and my friends bought in a wallet, and I don't think any of them are worth anything at this point, but I still have a wallet full of NFTs. If they make a comeback, that'd be great one day. I've got probably 50 grand in Bitcoin and Ethereum sitting around, so I'm really at a minimum at this point. Most of my money is in real estate, and probably 90% of my money is in real estate at this point. I own quite a few rent houses. I own a 400-acre cattle ranch. I own a $7.5 million office building, the one that I'm in this studio in right now. I own a $2 million personal house, and then $1 million secondary property. And so, most of my stuff's sitting in hard assets right now. I'm actually going through and liquidating a lot of these things because I think I'll be able to buy them or similar properties back cheaper in the near future. So I'm actually selling a lot of the stuff that I own right now to get liquid, so that if shit does hit the fan, no matter who gets elected, whether it's cackling Kamala or the orange man, gets elected, I want to be in a position to where I have buying power and not potentially depreciating assets. I want to sell them now. And so, I'm really, really looking to be in a position to make some moves whichever way the economy goes in the near future. But, I'm mostly in real estate right now, not a whole hell of a lot in crypto.
Awesome, man. Well, I would love to help you with that before, as we continue to grow and build this relationship. You never know for sure, but historically speaking, after this Bitcoin halving, which happened, back in April, in 2020, it halved in May, and then towards the end of 2020, going into 2021, was when Bitcoin, rocketed up into the mid 60s and stuff. And now in this year, it halved in April. And really, a lot of experts, including myself, really feel like towards the end of this year, we're going to see another big run in Bitcoin to $100,000 plus per Bitcoin, which is really going to bring up a lot of the altcoin markets. I think, even just a few thousand here, a few thousand there, can multiply by 25, 50, 100x if you're in the right spot. So maybe we'll get a chance to talk about that a little bit off camera. But I know you're a busy man, but before you go, something that's near and dear to my heart that I'd like you to talk to a little bit is your amazing family. In fact, when we go back to the introduction of this video and I talk about, your family, I've got a picture of you with your family, your Facebook profile picture with you standing there with your wife with your arm around your beautiful wife, Amy, and you have your 4 children there. And, I think so many people miss out on, that, let's just face it, 50% of marriages or more end up in divorce. So many children end up not having relationships with their parents as adults. And so how do you do it, man? How do you balance this life where you've created, millions of dollars or running multiple businesses, yet you have one of the most incredible relationships with a woman that I've ever seen. You have incredible children that you're raising that love you and adore you and that you get to spend a lot of time with. And just, for anybody that's out there watching this is kind of struggling, or that maybe feels like they're not doing it the right way. Maybe their wife is not happy with them. Their kids aren't happy with them. How can they turn that around? What would you recommend to somebody to create, the dream life where they can have it all?
Well, it's like I said, when I was in prison, I learned how to do time. And so I do time out here. There's no balance in work life. There isn't. That's complete bullshit. And here's what so many people miss out on. They search for this fucking balance in life. A scale is balanced at 0. You don't want to have balance. You don't want to be a 0. We have to work 8 hours a day, sleep 8 hours a night. That's 2/3 of our fucking day gone right there. There's no way you're going to spend another 8 hours with your family. You have drive time, lunch time, eat time, friends. So what I do is I was adopted when I was young, and my stepdad that adopted me was, he was not kind to me at all. And I don't even talk to my mom and dad anymore. Any of my parents' siblings, I don't have a relationship with any of them because of, I don't want, if they were to do that to my kids, I don't want to go back to jail again. You know what I mean? And so, but I made a promise to myself when I had my first son, Jackson, that I would be the dad that I never had. And I didn't know how to be a good dad. I just know how I wanted to be treated as a kid. And so I made it a point to do that. And I can't, some weeks I'm in the air, traveling around, speaking, working on projects. Some weeks I've got to work late night here at work. But I set two things up in my life. I've been divorced before too. And so I knew what I didn't want in a marriage. And there's a couple things that, honesty and transparency. A lot of women don't respect their husbands because their husband has made them a bunch of fucking promises that he hasn't kept. Honey, I'm going to take care of you. And then the first time something happens, he's a victim for the next 3 years. And women need a fucking leader. Women, they don't know alpha male bullshit. Women need someone to lead them. By nature, a man is there to protect and lead a woman. God created man first, the leader, and then he created a woman from the best part of the man. And so a woman is the best part, and you're supposed to lead her, and she's supposed to be the wisdom and advice that you take. And so many guys, they get this big ego, and then they become a victim. Like it's like they catch the man flu for marriage. You know what I mean? Like, and for me, I'm like, look, I'm going to be 100% transparent. If I'm having a hard time, I'm going to be honest about it, but I'm going to lead this fucking family. I'm going to be the man to step up. And if I give you my word, I'm not going back on it. If I tell you I'm going to do something, it may not happen immediately, but I'll work my ass off. A lot of guys will be like, hey, honey, I bought this MLM thing or this crypto thing and we're going to be millionaires. And they're like, this is the fifth time you've let me down with that promise. I'm the type of person to say, hey, I invested in this shit. Could work, could not work, but I'm a fucking work at it. Watch me work, right? And so there's a level of trust. But when I got married to my recent wife, we've been together for 10 years. I said, there's a couple things I'm going to do. And I've kept my word for 10 years. I said, we're going to do date night once a week for the rest of our fucking lives. And for us, that's Wednesday at 5 p.m. From about 5 to 8, we go out and sometimes take a walk in the park. Sometimes we come up to the office here and watch a movie on the 7-foot tall screen that we have in the auditorium. Sometimes we go out and we have dinner and drinks. Sometimes we just go have dessert. Sometimes we go to one of our kids' baseball games because it happens to be on a Wednesday. But every fucking Wednesday that I'm in town, we are out on date night. And if I miss Wednesday night date night, we go out on Friday or Saturday. Then I promise my kids, hey, I'm going to work my ass off during the week, but when I'm home on the weekends, we're going to spend one full day together as a father and children. And so now that's our cattle ranch. Every Saturday we go to the cattle ranch, and we got 200 head of cows, 400 acres, 16 four-wheelers, a house, 14 lakes. And we go out there and my kids, they hunt and they fish and they ride four-wheelers and we hang out, and I'll take my friends out there too. And we'll drink beer and have a good time and build bonfires. And I've got heavy equipment and tractors. And I mean, we're out there as a family unit doing shit. There's no phones distracted. There's no iPads. We're out there. We've got a lake we call Party Lake, and it's about 7-acre lake. And it's got it's probably the third biggest lake out there. Our biggest lake's 30 acres. And it's got a peninsula in the middle of it. So I built a road to get to the peninsula, and then this badass bar and pavilion on the peninsula. So we just go out there, and that's like the meetup spot for everybody. They'll pull out, kids are coming and going on four-wheelers, stop in, get some water, get a sandwich, go back out there riding and fishing and hanging out. And, a lot of people, 400 acres is a lot of land. So you can't, my kids, they be gone for 2 hours and I don't know where the hell they're at. They're out there riding their four-wheelers together with their friends or whatever. And, but they'll always make their way back to Party Lake, or I'll go hop on a four-wheeler and go riding with them and find them. And my kids are 3, 7, 12, and 13. So, I spend time with them every weekend. On Sundays, that's our day at the house. We're chilling at the house. I wake up early before everybody else wakes up. I create my content for the week, do all my work routines that move the needle. But I invest in my family every single week. Date night with the wife, family time with the kids. And, most Saturdays, especially it's hot like it is right now, I'll take the kids with me and leave the wife in the city. We'll take the kids to the country and leave the wife in the city. So she gets alone time as a wife too, so the kids aren't bothering her and, Mom, I need food. Mom, I need this. Mama. So that she gets time to reset her clock as well. And then I've got the kids out of her hair, and I'm having a hell of a time with them out there on the ranch. And so these little things, whereas if you make time for somebody and you show interest in somebody, they'll love you for life in exchange for that. Most people, they say, honey, we're going to make us rich. And then they don't do the work to get rich. They let the wife down. They made false expectations. And then they don't spend time with the wife anyway. They come home, they drink alcohol, they sit in front of the TV, they don't do shit. That's going to build, even when I had a cellmate, if my cellmate wasn't doing shit, that's going to build resentment between the two of us. Here I am reading books, trying to be better. You ain't doing shit, Mike. Get shit together. You know what I mean? That's the same in a marriage as well. Same with kids. They think, oh, well, fucking dad doesn't do anything, versus my kids are like, dude, dad's doing stuff with us. He's doing stuff with his friends. He's traveling the country. He's working hard, but he still makes time for us because he loves us. And you know, I don't lie to my wife. I don't lie, period. But I don't lie to my wife, and I don't lie to my kids. I mean, you know, we have some weed houses that got raided. They had 1,400 plants, I think it was, in these weed houses that got raided next to our ranch in Oklahoma. And my kids are like, dang, what the fuck are the cops? Well, they didn't cuss, but they're like, what are the cops over there? And what is on? I'm like, they're selling drugs. What kind of drugs? That's marijuana and blah, blah, blah. And, you know, I'm not going to lie to them. They know I've been to prison. They don't live some sheltered life. I'm the same person in front of them that I'm in front of adults, and I've treated them like adults. And now that my kids are teenagers, they don't have I don't believe my dad because he lied to me or he sheltered me. They're like, dude, I believe everything my dad says. That guy's never lied to me. Last week, my 7-year-old, I was trying to get him to go down into this dry creek we were riding our four-wheelers through. And he's like, I don't think I can do it. And I was like, no, you can definitely do it. And he started crying. He's like, Dad, I can't do it. I can't do it. I said, I told you, you can do it. Do it. And I made him do it. And he got to the bottom. He goes, oh, that wasn't so bad. I said, when in your life have I ever lied to you? When have I ever put you in harm's way? When have I ever told you that you can't, that you could do something that you can't? And he's like, you're right. Never. Sorry. Back on the four-wheeler, rolling down again. And so, you know, just like I run my business, I run my family with intention. And just like if I got to get onto one of my employees' asses, I'll get onto one of my kids' asses too. And, you know, I don't look at myself as a guy that runs a business or a business association. I look at, I'm the father of this business. I'm the father of my kids. I'm the father in my household. I'm the father. I'm not a manager. I'm not a CEO. I'm the father of this business. I'm the father of my clients. I'm like the dad that I never had for everybody. And a lot of people got daddy issues. Some people don't like it when dad's got to be real with you, but that's just who I am. I'm everybody's dad. That's me. Everybody's my kids. And whether you're older than me or younger than me, I treat you like my kids, but I don't treat my kids like kids. I treat them like human beings and people that I care about. So, you know, a lot of times we've had employees quit over the year because they're like, oh, Stewman yelled at me. It's like, if I didn't fucking like you, I wouldn't have tried to shake the truth into you. Right? It isn't my fault that you can't handle the truth. It isn't my fault that you weren't doing what you were supposed to. But as a father, I got to be stern with you when the niceness didn't fucking work the first 5 times, you know?
Amen. Amen. One last quick topic, if you got time.
Yeah.
You know, my dad, it was an alcoholic. About 2 months before I was born, my mom told him to either quit drinking or get out, and he left. But about 2 days later, he called her back and said, no, man, that ain't the life that I want to live. And you're right. And he made a promise to get sober, and he did. He celebrated 50 years of sobriety at 81 years old, and he passed away a little over a year ago, a few days later. But I never saw my dad take a drink my whole life. And I know that you've been pretty open on social media about how, you know, smoking pot and alcohol has influenced you at different times of your life. And it sounds like you're kind of going through a time in life where you kind of got rid of all of that stuff. And, you know, could you speak to that a little bit for folks that are maybe, you know, think that the smoking the weed on the weekends, having a few drinks in the evening, you know, maybe speak to how that might be holding them back more than they give it credit for?
Well, if you're just smoking weed on the weekends, honestly, it's probably no big deal. That wasn't my thing, though. I smoked weed the second I woke up to the fucking minute I went to sleep all day long. And not like I smoke a little bit in the morning and a little bit in the evening. When I say all day long, I'm smoking half ounce of weed every 2 days, plus a vape a day. Like, I had a fucking problem. And I never really had a problem with alcohol. I went about 10 months without alcohol just while I was quitting weed at the same time. I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go straight edge for a while. But I'm a all in or all off type of person. And so, I have been smoking weed. I smoked weed in prison. You know what I mean? I smoked weed on parole and beat your analysis and all this shit. I have a fucking weed problem. And I feel about a year ago, it's been 9 months as of yesterday, that God called me and he said, listen, I need you to quit smoking weed. Everything that you want is on the other side of stopping smoking weed. And I went, well, I'll quit drinking. And I don't have a drinking problem. I'm not an everyday drinker, and I felt just in the back of my head, you hard-headed son of a bitch. I said quit smoking weed. I didn't say anything about alcohol. And so, I went through a phase up until about April of this year where I didn't smoke or drink. And I realized that I had let a lot of things run in my life and people take advantage of me that I shouldn't have been. And I needed to get a clear head around that stuff to be able to detox, go through the emotions, deal with the hardships, to be like, okay, I'm going to address this stuff head on, as opposed to smoking, hoping it, fixes itself. And I got a lot of PTSD, a lot of daddy issues and love issues and shit like, most people do, maybe to an extreme in my case, maybe more than most people do. But I stopped smoking weed and my life is drastically improved. And I don't know if I can just smoke on the weekends. If I could just smoke weed at my ranch, I might still do it, but I don't know that I can do that. And my life has been very difficult without it because I don't have something to escape to. And because the stress didn't go away, the problems didn't go away. God didn't say, hey, I'm going to get rid of all your stress and problems, just quit smoking weed. He said, I'm going to make sure everything you want's on the other side of this. And that means I still got to work for it. That means I still got to do my part as a human being for it. So, yesterday had been 9 months to a T. And since the day I started smoking weed at 13 years old, I've never been 9 months without it. And so this is the longest streak at almost 45 years old that I've ever been without it. And I can say that, I haven't blown up on anybody and yelling and screaming in probably 6 months. I'm a lot more patient with people. And you would think, weed would make me patient. It did while I was on it. But when I would come down waiting on that next high, I was very aggravated and agitated and lose my cool. And I didn't think things all the way through, and I didn't communicate with people the way that I should have. So it's been a drastic improvement. If you can go home like Joe Rogan at the end of the night and just smoke a joint and kind of escape reality before you go to bed, or eat a gummy before you go to bed, it's probably not going to ruin your life. But if you're somebody like me where, I'm going to Mexico and smuggling weed and shit in my bag because I can't go without it. It's a fucking problem. It's an addiction. And people say, oh, you can't be addicted to weed. That's a fucking lie from the devil. I am addicted to fucking weed. I'm a weedaholic. I have a fucking problem with it. And there's a lot of people out there. If you're willing to risk going to jail for something, that's an addiction. If you're willing to risk, if you can't go day without it, or a week without it, a month without it, that's a fucking addiction. You know what I mean? And so, until I have built my dream life and living it and it runs itself, I'm not going to be able to smoke weed. And I don't even know if I'll be able to smoke weed at that point either, because I might fuck it all up again. So, and it wasn't that, I'm out there running the streets naked because I smoke weed. It's just that a lot of times I wasn't making the best decisions. I was making good and okay decisions, and I was making uninformed decisions and decisions based on, it'll probably work out, versus I've thought through that, and that's probably not the best route we should take. I really thought through this process. And one of the things I do miss, though, is it did help with my creativity and humor. I'm funnier when I'm high, and I'm a little bit more creative when I'm high, but I've only 9 months without it. So I'm working on getting those things back as well from a natural standpoint. And then, once I've mastered this, and this really forced me to go into self-mastery without being able to escape, which is, made me a better person. So, if you're out there and you're addicted, it's probably fucking in the way, you know what I mean? But if you're out there and you can, occasionally once a month, once a week or on the weekends or whatever, and you're living a successful life already, and you're handling your business at home and handling your business at work, and it's not something that's interfering, it's probably not a big deal. But if you're waking bacon, trying to escape reality, making bad decisions, not working, not working as hard as you could, and not really calculating things the way that you could, it's probably a good idea to leave that shit alone, because it's not helping you.
Awesome, man. appreciate your transparency, my friend. So before we get out of here, where would you like everybody to find you, man? I know that a lot of my viewers are going to love, your story, love, just want to get more of you. Where can they find you?
I'm Hardcore Closer on Instagram. The one with the blue check, don't go anywhere else. I know everybody can buy a blue check these days. I've had them since they were the cool thing to have, and didn't pay for them. I got them. I earned them. Same on Facebook, Ryan Stewman, the only one with the blue check. Anything else is bullshit. If you're looking to work with me, maybe you want to find out about the Apex Business Association and the benefits that work with that, you can go to jointheapex.com or just slide my DM and ask me a couple questions. Dude, I love helping people. I love leading people. I love being people's father, like I said. So if you're looking for a dad to lead you down the path, someone that can help you really, and not just business, but really become the greatest version of yourself and master life in general, I don't know anybody who's been through the amount of hell that I have and come out the other side the way that I have and taken the lessons from it. So, whatever hardships you're in, I could probably help you overcome them.
Awesome, man. Well, thank you so much for your time. Folks, all of those links will be in the description of the video, so make sure that you go give Ryan a follow. Hit him up. Most genuine guy, most genuine dude that I've ever met in my whole life. I really appreciate you being here, Ryan, and, wish you the best of luck. I know you got a busy schedule coming up, so, God bless, and we'll talk to you again real soon.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Brad.
You bet.